cancer is all about home and family and getting back to your feelings. So it's funny that, I don't think Gary does plan out the astrology, but he had a sense that you guys, the team need to slow down in the summer anyways.
Oh, all right. That's why everybody's kind of chilling out. Most of the teams in Colombia.
Oh, right.
I The last
Yeah.
time I was on stage with Gary, he was talking about something having to do with, I believe it was Aries, but then he also mentioned the right side of the body. And he mentioned that, like, Jason had a problem with his right foot. Gary had a problem, I believe, in his right upper area. And that same day, I injured my right knee,
Mm,
and haven't been able to walk. I don't know what that was about.
mm. Could be a lot of things. Right is ego and left is spirit. So like your human part of yourself, if you injure the right part of your body in our world, spirituality,
Yeah.
we believe that that's a human based, ego based problem. In other words, from living on earth and having an ego, you have some sort of an ego issue. If it's left, it's past life and karmic. So I had a whole bunch of people in my network get injured on the left side.
Mm.
Hmm.
And this
But it,
is,
and that makes sense with human garagers because human garagers are very much in their body. They're very much into this lifetime. Gary has brought the left to them, but they are more righties than they are lefties.
especially when we're on tour, it was all about like what's going on now, being present, being the best that we can be. It was like a lot of being ready for now, and
Hmm.
presenting that out into the people, almost like beyond what is basically maxing out my capacity is what I'm hearing from you.
Perhaps. I mean, you might have maxed out your capacity. You a lot of times, a lot of times, right body injuries are from the ego pushing too hard. So if that's what you mean by maxing out your capacity, it's just a lot of times the ego just pushes a little too hard. Like my right knee starts hurting. I know I've been running on the treadmill too much. You know, like it just warns me I've been pushing my right knee will complain, my left knee won't. But I know the message is like slow down, buddy.
Hmm.
Because I'm very righty. I mean, I'm in the business of left because if I didn't make it my business, I would have never gone there.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I made it a business because I know in past lives I was like, no, I'm not doing spiritual stuff. I don't believe in the church. And then finally, it's like you've got to, or you can't graduate Earth. I mean, I'm very spiritual, but I've never made it my whole job. I don't think in past lives. So, anyways, so I make a lot of
And,
right. I have a lot of right side wounds. So I'm saying,
and there's people asking about different body parts. Do you have,
yeah, that's more of a Gary thing. I'd say you guys use Gary will help you with all
right?
that. I happen to know the right and left just from spirituality, and we're mostly interested in the left because, for instance, I broke my foot last year. Okay, I broke my left foot. First time I've ever broken a bone in my body. It was from stepping off the porch and my foot just failing. Like my foot just decided to fail. Like I don't know why. It works every day. It just decided on that day not to work. And I broke my left foot. Well, as I was walking in a fury, like because I was about to go on the air for Human Garage actually. So I actually broke my foot right before I went on the air for Human Garage. And I was sitting there talking to Gary in pain, right, the whole
Wow.
time. Yeah, but at some moment when I was rushing around, I had a vision of myself as a soldier in a war with a foot that would never heal. And I'm pretty sure I didn't ever recover from that. Like I don't think I died, but I think I died pissed. So if you die pissed, if you die pissed about something, you will relive it.
Yeah.
You will relive it because you are holding on to it and not letting go. So anything in consciousness you hold on to and not let go, you will relive in a lifetime in the future. And a lot of the mistakes that we have, like things that go wrong, and it may even be honestly, your injury or whatever. If it was left, I'd be more convinced of it. But people will, you know, people who, for instance, died in the Civil War will almost die in this life from an accident or injury because they have to actually face the trauma because they died and never could face it. So if you die in a war, you can never face the trauma that you're dying. You have to come back and almost die and clear the trauma of having died.
And if you
Right.
don't, you do that next lifetime.
Correct. Now, hospice is preparing to die. Like, old age is preparing to die. Like other things prepare us to die. So most people don't have any, stuff around that. But if you are upset till the day you die, if you say, you know, I will always love you in every life, you just signed up to keep connecting to that person. So you have to be very careful what you declare because you are the creators of reality. And the only real rule I see is that you have to finish your plate. And finish your plate means if you begin something in the matrix, you must see it for the full 360. You must understand the entire aspect of that lesson, the entire aspect. So let's say you want to understand murder. You're really curious, why do humans murder? So you get murdered, okay, and die suddenly, and you have trauma. But later in the story, you have to be the murderer
Hmm.
because you have to learn the full 360 of the story. So, like people who, a lot of times my clients don't realize that's like bad things happen in their childhood, really bad things, right?
Right.
Trespassing, violence, right? And they come across as like, oh, why has this happened to me? Why have I been victimized, right? But a lot of times in the chart, it's that you had done that to someone else in a past life, and so now it is being done to you.
You can
So
see that in the chart.
yes, you can see it. You see it from basically planets have themes, like they have like little themes and stuff. And so you'll see they have the theme of having trespassed or been violent to someone. It's in the chart that you've been that your karma is one of your karma, and there's many karmic things we can look at: Black Moon Lilith, Chiron, Pluto. There's many planets that speak to your other lives because they're sort of carrying the information
Hmm.
necessary to continue the story, right? The chip on your shoulder or whatever. But yeah, you can often see, like a lot of times I'll hear this life, this happened to me, and I'm like, well, your chart says you did that to someone in the past life. And
Yeah.
they're like,
Yeah.
whoa, that just flips their lid because they can't imagine they had any part to do with what hurt them.
Right. And do they accept this when you tell them that?
Yes, they're shocked. But I come from a Buddhist childhood. So I was raised Buddhist, Catholic, psychic. I was raised many world religions at once. So I've always believed in what comes around goes around. When I was an astrologer, I could find proof of it. But growing up and as a child, even in our household, my dad, I'd be like, Dad, blah 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 blah. I complain to him, about him, and he'd be like, "You chose me as a father in heaven."
Right.
It's like our enlightened household put it back onto me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really hard for people to accept that because even when I talk about things, the first place people go are what about kids that are being abused? And
Okay.
I tend not to dive into that because I don't have proof, right? So, and I also don't want to add salt to the wounds of people without, me being there connected with them. But that's interesting to hear you say that there's at least a signature of something that suggests that what we're talking about could be a matter of reality and not just a guess that everyone's choosing the life that they're dealt this time around.
I think we pretty much, I mean, this changes every week, right? I mean, not every week, but maybe every couple of years. But I'm fully convinced that we sign up for 90% in heaven. The free will is in heaven, it's not on earth. I think in heaven, we spend a lot of time planning. Now, this information comes from psychiatrists and people who have done past life regressions to people in hypnosis, and people are telling the same story over and over and over and over and over again in hypnosis
Right.
all across the world. So it's like everyone has the same memory planted in their brain, or it's the truth. Okay, like and what the story goes is, of course, it's impossible. No one dies. It's impossible to die. You cannot die. God cannot die. You're a part of God. No one can die. Life changes. We wake up in heaven because we were actually asleep the whole time. You and I are really right now in heaven, hanging out in heaven in a dream, imagining that we're on Earth together in this moment. That's actually how reality is constructed. So you wake up when you die, right? And you go through this process of cleansing, and then you go through a process of lots of groups like working on karma together. So like they put you in teams to go review your lives with other people on the team and do like discussions in heaven about what you could have done better. So you're forced to go to school when you're up there
about
and
about your life, like a
about
panoramic
your life.
life review. I've heard it called.
Yes, and you have the ability to reanimate anything on a television sort of apparatus where, and that's where I'm like, there's some scenes I don't want to show in class. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'm in moments in my life, I'm like, oh God, I hope these files don't end up in heaven. You know, like just, I'm embarrassed at what the moment is because I know about it. And then long story short, after you learn, you have your own guidance person, like a higher up vibration that manages humans, and you meet with that person and you go over the plan of what you're going to do in the next incarnation. So everything is planned in the next incarnation, who your parents are, what you will learn, what you will experience. And so to answer your question, those kids signed up to be abused. They signed up to be abused. They willingly put their signature in heaven that that's the life they wanted. And the
Otherwise,
reason
it
is
wouldn't be happening.
correct. Well, otherwise, God has favorites. Like the
Right.
alternative to not being, if it's not that's the people's like, I'm shocked you're making my responsibility. Well, the other narrative there is that God picked on you for some reason. Why did God pick on you? Why did you have the bad child and someone else didn't? Isn't that kind of rude? Is that the way the universe is built? I don't think so. So I believe in free will. I believe we sign up for it. I believe the reason why we sign up for it is because none of this is real. It's like it's a carnival ride.
Yeah.
It's like
Video game.
we come into a video game, and we know it's a video game. It's the most incredible video game. You will have pain. You will have orgasms. You will experience they want to create virtual reality. Reality is virtual.
Amazing.
It's already virtual, and it's so high resolution. I'm sorry, Zuckerberg, you will not get here. This is a work of art by God, right? Like as far as the experience for learning and only learning. So when you're up there going, yeah, my dad dies in the first act. It's like reading a script. You don't really put it together, I don't think. And that's my joke always when I'm down here. I'm like, oh shit, I don't think it was explained to me this way in heaven. Like, now that I'm here, I'm like, I don't think this is is this what I meant? We'll have to talk about it when I get back. Like, who knows? There's some things that I don't remember agreeing to, but I also know me. I'm probably like, and don't fucking tell me. Just let me figure it out. Like I probably gave instructions like, don't tell me ahead of time. I don't want to know bad stuff's coming. I want it to be a surprise.
Right.
And they will
Yeah.
do that.
That's the whole reason why we're veiled from knowing it all, is so that we get to go through this experience and feel all the range of emotions. We signed up for that, as you're saying.
We totally did. And I guess, the last step that we hear in these stories in heaven is you do a ritual where your memory is erased. You're given amnesia and you incarnate with amnesia. You don't have any memory of anything in the universe. And according to Wendy Kennedy, who I met at Mount Shasta and an alien expo called the Lemurian Life Expo, she channels Palladians, basically, is what she channels. And it's interesting that what she's told me is that the Palladians are really fascinated with Earthlings. And here's the reason why. Because Earthlings decided it would be interesting to take away the realization about how life works and to be put in a bubble, only believing certain things, to see what a person would choose in the circumstance of not knowing. And so the Palladians say, when you come down with amnesia, you see life in a resolution, aspects of life in a resolution that you wouldn't see that same resolution in advanced societies. So she says the Palladians say human beings deliberately, and they find this really compelling because a lot of things we come up with, they would not have come up with. And that's because they're not in that position. So we are very unique as humans. We're in a very unique situation. It is really weird. It's a science experiment in heaven, basically. And what Earth becomes is a library. So Earth itself is designed to be a galactic library. It's meant to be the main library of the Milky Way. That's what Earth is. It's Milky Way's library. By library, we mean all the genetics of all the species are here in the human being. All the species of the aliens are in here as human beings. So we are a hybrid. We're the 13th race that God has created in the Milky Way, the 13th race. The 13th race is a conglomerate of all the other 12 races. And this is a 12 base system, which is why we have 12 astrology signs in 12 months, because another part of this reality is we decided to divide it into 12. So when God creates realities, one of the things you decide is how many parts do you divide it into? Right? What are the states of awareness? I think every planetary, like the alien planets, like let's say Sirius, they have different planets around their stars than we do, because they have different awarenesses in their body than we do.
Right.
They have high telepathic. They're super telepathic and super like Neptune. So whatever's in their system, their Neptune must be like the size of Jupiter, because their psychic awareness is so high with the Sirians. But every system has a different planetary system that is the soul's system that keeps all the consciousness of the matrix alive in that sector.
So
we're talking about weird stuff today.
Yeah,
let's spend a day like that.
You said so much, and I would love to just go back and validate my understanding of all those concepts, but I'll just say that like I'm validating it based on the path and the journey I took to get here as well. That all is in alignment with everything that I've seen other people say, that I've researched. But moving on, just because you don't need validation. Well, the question
now
I was going to ask.
Now I'm curious, how'd you come to it? Through yoga?
So hearing people talk about dying and like near-death experiences,
right,
and then also the hypnosis people as well, the QHHT, people have similar understandings, and then also people that aren't veiled, people that have written books because they do have access to the other lives that they're currently living, and like Matthias de Stefano, like who can basically connect with those other lives and download the knowledge that he had when he was on another planet or in another time.
Yeah, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Although I think everyone will be born with that in the future.
That's where it seems like it's going. I mean, because kids are being born with that connection. For me, from a yogic standpoint, what happens is the skull, when you're like before 5 years old, is still open. That's where those soft spots are.
Yeah.
And you have greater connection. And so like even my sister's son, when he was younger, he was talking about being on other planets and having a different alien mom and wanting to go there. And even my wife also has stories when she was younger, being in the bath, wanting to go back home.
Me too.
But then so then your skull fuses, and it's easier to separate from that because you don't have a direct connection through your through your higher chakras into source.
Although I would say that's changing. So I think that is true. In the dark ages, we were not naturally plugged in.
Right.
And from what I understand, that's because of where the solar system itself is in proximity to the Milky Way. So the solar system pendulums back and forth in front of the Milky Way every, like, I don't know how many thousands of years.
25,920.
Well, that's the precession of the equinox. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to sit down and think about, like, because they're different spinning things in the universe. Yeah. You know what I mean?
There's so many different
everything's spinning around different things, but I'm not sure what's causing that.
So I've been explained two different things. One is the precession, the equinox is actually shifting the orientation of Earth towards and away from the center of the Milky Way.
Oh, fascinating.
And then that gives us seasons where where you have more access, and then like you said, darker ages, and that correlates in the precessions of the equinoxes. And so you get like a winter time, which is the dark ages that we're just coming out of right now. And if you go back to like the last springtime, we got like Atlantis and Lemuria during those times. And I don't fully
Yes.
understand it, but there's that. That's one thing. And another thing is that the sun, if it is moving in a gravitational framework of the universe, you know, like, because we just said this is a video game. So all of these
The
talked about,
sun is moving. The sun is moving. You know, like the Earth is never in the same spot the following year.
yeah.
It's further. It's further away. The entire solar system is moving.
So I've
We're
seen the
never in the
video,
same place ever.
right? At like pretty much ever. Yeah. It's a very, very, very long cycle
Which
before
is
we
which is
ever
like a
get that.
videotape. So they say that memory is stored in the time space. So so it's a hard drive. Like we're moving through space because we're using up this space to have the animations of our lifetimes and timelines and memories. So it's
Yeah.
like, how do you get back to 1817? Well, you might have to go in space where Earth was in 1817.
Right.
That might be how you have to actually time jump. Is Earth was 100 meters that way
Yeah,
or whatever.
and that reality is there right now, is essentially. And so my framework is that while we're here in this dimension, we travel through physical space, and we have this illusion of linear time. But in other dimensions, we can travel through space, like we walk through space, but we can travel through time by just going to the different time prints, like you're saying, like if it's
Mm-hmm.
on record, like a record disc, and we're spinning around that, you just travel through time, which is existing infinitely now. You would be able to access different time spaces by just going and traveling to those moments on the
Yeah.
record.
And I don't know if you watch Bashar. Bashar's a channeler who channels the gray
Yeah, I
aliens.
love him.
Bashar is the alien, actually. The
Right.
actual name of the guy who channels is something
There,
different. So Daryl Anka,
something
Daryl
like
Anka?
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I want to say
Um,
Enki, but I don't think it's
I think
Enki.
it's Anka. He lives in LA and he runs a escape room.
Really?
That's yeah, yeah. Yeah, I found out some interesting stuff because friends and friends and friends know him, because he's in the same industry. But the interesting thing he says as Bashar is that in the galactic universe, um, it's based on frequency. So the frequency signature, because really nothing exists in space time at all. This is all a illustration. This is all, frankly,
Huh.
right now. I mean, even I am being drawn by your mind. I mean, my
Yeah.
face is, you're not looking at my face. You're seeing light waves come through an electric device, and your brain is drawing me. I hope better looking, but nonetheless. um, but what he says is like, so he says, this is how UFOs work. He says a UFO can make itself vibrate at any vibration. And so what a UFO does is uh, dial in the exact frequency of space-time Earth. And if their ship becomes 2024 space-time Earth frequency, because
Hmm.
apparently every frequency is unique,
Right.
right? Then it will just appear magically. The matrix will just make it appear there because the matrix is written based on frequency. So he says, if you wanted to make an object like fly from here to there, you would just have to have that object know what the frequency of there is and change the object's frequency to there, and it will appear there, is what he says.
That's also in the book series, The Life and Teachings of the Masters of the Far East. They were teleporting all over the planet, and and scientists were documenting them disappear and show up 200 miles away. And this is Western scientists that didn't really believe it. And the guy who was in charge of all this kept all of his journals secret for like 25 years until right before he was about to die, until maybe even after he died, they were released. And it was the masters there would say the same thing. Like we just we just go there. It's as simple as you get off the couch and walk to the kitchen. That's how simply we teleport.
Well, do they know the mechanics beneath it? Or, I mean, I do know from like autobiography of a yogi, um, where he talks about Yogananda talks about his gurus and their gurus, and that these gurus in India, people are asking masters and teachers of what? This is ancient Vedic knowledge, is what I think you're referring to. So the Vedas and the ancient Vedic knowledge of India, their knowledge is kept through the centuries. And apparently, yogis who were trained with the knowledge, they can fall asleep and their light body can appear anywhere. So they can be in two places at once. They can levitate. There's a bunch of little tricks up their sleeve. They can. They even have the Jedi mind trick where they can make you think they look like someone else.
Right. Right.
So they basically can become invisible.
But
They can trick your mind into thinking
yeah,
that I'm Bozo or
but it's
whatever.
happening
You know,
in the other person's mind.
correct. Right. But it's a
That's
magic
something
trick.
different. What I'm talking about is in Asia. This you're talking about like Indian, and
Okay.
there's all of these different things happening all over the world, and they're accessing. It's essentially a science.
Spiritual
They've
science.
yeah, they know a science that we kind of don't use on a typical manner nowadays.
They preserve the science. I mean, I think going back to our original conversation, Atlantis and Lemuria had the science. Everyone had the science. And they blew themselves up with it.
Exactly.
Damn it. So earth of us. And then what happened was they carried the science to Egypt and the Mayan civilization
Right.
and China. So, from what I understand, Atlantis spread the knowledge into what became secret schools in Egypt and in China. Perhaps in I don't know what happened in India in that area. I don't know. You know, I know bits and pieces of Atlantis from my own memories and from what I've gathered. It's coming together. But anyways, long story short, it's like I think the Vedas managed to preserve the knowledge all the way from Atlantis and kept it preserved, is what I feel. I don't feel like they discovered it. And Atlantis didn't discover it either. Aliens came down. I mean, the story of Atlantis is that aliens helped Atlantis become an advanced civilization. It was a bunch of families that escaped from the Anunnaki slavery. 12 families came from the Anunnaki slavery. One of the Anunnaki allegedly turned on the Anunnaki and tricked them and started this new civilization of New Earth called Atlantis at the time. So Atlantis was a separation from Anunnaki slaves. And then it evolved over time, and aliens came down and just gave these slaves all the tech,
Hmm.
all the tech, which is why the aliens are like, boop, 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 right now, because in their history with us, they feel responsible for blowing us up.
Yeah.
They gave us the tech. They gave these monkeys who had just had their DNA changed all the technology in the universe, including enough technology to blow up the Earth.
And that's why they're hesitant because they know how we are.
That's the story of the Galactic Council is like, they're like, we won't make that mistake again.
There's got to be enough of us at a certain level before they intervene again because that also ruins their karma.
Interestingly enough, like Sirius is the mother of Earth. So Sirius was our mother. Sirius taught us how to live in family units and mother-father roles because we were basically hunting and gathering and roaming. And what civilized us was Sirius. But from what I've heard through Wendy Kennedy and others at this council thing, Sirius had just come out of their dark age. They had just come out of their dark age. They went through they were even darker than we were. And they had just like learned like, Star Trek Enterprise brand new. And they basically went to Earth and broke the Enterprise code because they were just so apparently ambitious and happy that they had saved their own planet. They figured they can do anything.
Hmm.
But it's just interesting that, so they saw us as could become them, in that regard. It's so interesting to think about the galactic stories tied to Earth. I mean, they're just stories, but they're
Yeah.
fascinating.
And for me, it makes way more sense than anything else that we're taught. because most of everything that we're taught is we don't know the answer. It just happened like this. And then you have these people that are channeling entities that are laying out information from multiple perspectives. It checks out better than
Yeah.
anything I've learned in school. And then when you apply it to your life and you integrate it into your life, seemingly magical things start to happen. So it's
Oh, yeah.
not just a story. It doesn't have to just be a story. I mean, it can just be a story. Whether it's true or not doesn't even really matter to me, because I can learn something from a fiction movie and apply it to my life, and my life completely changed. So whether that's fiction or not isn't really of that much importance to me. It's like, can I integrate it into my life, and what happens when I do? And
Well, there's a variety of topics here. I mean, the alien stuff doesn't make a difference right now. It's all speculative. The astrology and the metaphysics and law of attraction and vibration and signature, my life is magical. Like I manifest everything I want,
mm-hmm.
right? Like I can't keep up with my manifestations. I mean, if anything, I'm over manifesting, and I'm not bragging. I just, because we all have this ability to connect and make life happen for us. There's some fundamental things you have to adopt and really adhere to in your heart if you're going to change your life. And one of the things is that A, you chose this life. You know what we went to in the beginning. You chose this. So this idea that you're a victim is preposterous.
Mm-hmm.
And it keeps you completely out of your power, because if you want to believe that life is bad because of someone else, we can't work with you, because we're on completely different operating
Right.
systems there, right? And I think that's part of the enlightened and the unenlightened right there is, once you believe that you are in command of your reality, here's the good news. You can begin to command it.
Exactly.
This is, as we said, we're in a dream. This is a dream. If this is a dream, I should fucking be able to fly. I should be able to do anything. If I'm actually in heaven in a dream, then of course I should be able to control everything in this situation. And I actually think the reason why media is owned and histories have been erased and mystery schools have been killed off and all of the secret has been kept a secret, right, is because there's a few that want to control everything. And if the muggles knew that this is a dream and they can make it happen, they would not be in power.
Right, because you control the mind of the masses, and then you control reality.
Because what you're doing is you're telling them this is the story, and then their manifestation powers are manifesting the story that was given to them instead of manifesting the story they want. So the reason why we have propaganda and fighting and all this stuff is because they know this is just imaginary wizard school. And if the kids found out that they could create their own reality, I can't seed the clouds and block the sun and make genetic copies of mosquitoes. I can't act like gods just because I have money.
And
right?
There's so much of that happening. It's like, it seems to me like that's their last ditch effort to grasp control of the masses, because the masses are opening their eyes slowly and starting to see what's really going on because of people like you, and everyone watching this, who's open and receptive to receive this. Thank you.
Well, there's souls like us. I mean, I think every time I come down, I'm trying to help the earth out where it's at, wherever it's at. Every lifetime, it's been something different. In one lifetime, it was keeping the Romans back. That was what was important, keeping the Romans back. But in this lifetime, it's important for people to know how the system works. To me, that's what's most important. You need to know how it all works. And the astrology and the step system blows my mind, because it turns out that this movie we call life has a pattern. It has a consistent pattern. God wrote a pattern. It's not random at all. It's 26,000 years long, this pattern. That's how long it takes for the planets to repeat themselves, 26,000 years. So that's how much variety is in. So you're talking about the variety of signatures. The planets are never in the same spot again ever for 26,000 years. That's 26,000 years of unique frequencies that will not repeat except for another 26,000 years. That's a big VHS tape that's in the human VCR, right? 26,000 years. But basically, I'm not even sure where I was going at the very beginning of this because I went down this exciting path. Oh, just about the awakening. So we're in this moment now where um, we are going to awaken one way or another. And I think for the people who are, the people who are last ditch effort is what you're saying, who are trying to stay in control. I think any human being, if you're losing, you just keep fucking going and you try to win with what you've been doing. You can't switch
Right.
mid game, right? So I don't even see them as last ditch efforts. I see it as like anything they can do to keep it alive. Anything they
Yeah,
can do to keep it alive.
they're
Right.
repeating the same program they've always done because it's worked before.
They're really dumb. And I say that because they're not spiritual. And so when you don't connect to God, you don't have great ideas, inspiration, you don't have creativity, you don't have any of this magic that I can do on a show with you once a week. Look at Bill Gates, for instance. He has no personality, right? Like these people they're not connected to source. So here's my point. From what I hear, the vaccine of 1908 or whatever, 1918, that vaccine, from what
Uh,
I hear, what was it, the 18, what was the
what
flu after
is
World War
it, like
One?
the Spanish flu or something like
Spanish
that?
flu.
Right.
Right, yes, exactly. So apparently the Spanish flu had a vaccine that killed everyone. Okay. And you can research this. And apparently it was the Rockefellers, all the people from the very beginning that made that vaccine back then. Okay. Which is very interesting. My point is this: they've been trying to kill us for over 100 years. They're really stupid. Like, I could have done it much faster. You know what I mean? Like, as far as taking over the world, they really haven't done a very good job, as far as, and that's because everything goes against, and I'm talking about people who are for people or not for people, but for instance, the internet. Why is it that they can't keep the secret alive anymore? Because of the internet. Who invented the internet? They did. So they shoot themselves in the foot all the time.
That's the thing with that negative, dark-based mentality
Right.
is that you will always self-destruct. If you have a
Yes.
destructive mindset, you're going to self-destruct.
Totally. And that's the thing. And that's actually what it is. I mean, it is about a destructionist. It's about destruction. I mean, someone was bringing this up to me the other day. Actually, it was Gary. He was talking about how the human body was all learned by dissecting, cutting,
Yeah.
tearing apart,
Which
tearing it all apart, dissecting it, bringing it down to its smallest pieces, basically destroying it to learn it. And it's
yeah.
like, huh? And that's their whole path. They're wired on a very core thing where it's like we're gonna have to destroy it to learn it. There's this pre-gone concept that they will self-destruct by the nature of how they learn. This deconstructive, that's how they do it, and they're disconnected from spirit. This particular clan. By the way, the souls that are wreaking havoc this time, same ones that brought down Atlantis. So this moment in human history is Atlantis 2.0. You have the same bad guys in power. You have the same good guys trying to stop them. And
Yeah.
they did, and they did ruin the earth the first time. So it's a
Yeah.
credible threat. It's a credible threat. And I think we all have a collective memory of losing the entire world. And I think that they use that fear against us all the time. The fear they created by destroying it the first time, they now throw that in our face. Climate, this, that. You could die anytime. You could die
Nuclear
anytime.
war, asteroid. Yeah. It's
Like you might die, and that coming from a reductionist, right? Like they're telling us we might die. No, you guys think in reductionist terms. We don't. We think in manifestation constructive
right.
terms. We are
And
manifesting. We are creating. We are taking this beautiful gift that God gave us and doing something fun with it.
connected to it. The answer's already here where, it's not about, like you said, reducing it into mechanical parts
Yeah.
and in the process destroying it.
Yeah.
Like destroying it before you even get to step one. That's
Well,
our science, by the way. That's everything in our current
medicine.
westernized science. Yeah,
Did you
medicine.
know? Did you know there weren't even peer scientific groups? So studies were not peer group studied until after like 1955. It was invented. It wasn't the process. It was always there.
Because
Just a random thing.
that's the
It's
cool kids club, making sure that only
correct.
what they approve
Correct.
gets through. That's the
Correct.
peer reviewed process. It's not how everyone thinks, where everyone is like humble and out to find the truth. That's not what happens in the scientific community.
I think in science, the goal is to prove it's not wrong. You have to prove it's all about, proving what is not true about it. It's like an inside out proof itself. You're like, okay, I can eliminate this reason why it wouldn't be true, and this reason why it wouldn't be true, and this reason why it wouldn't be true. It's actually finding the truth by discovering all the things that aren't true
The
first.
process of elimination, right?
It's a reductionist approach, right? And they're like, no, we have to discover the truth. You had a theory at the top of the paper. You already theorized without having any evidence. And you say you're not creating it? You started with a theory. That's the other thing that's crazy. It's like, well, I started with this theory that maybe water is this. Okay, and then maybe water became it because that was a theory. Like Earth is responding. Like, how many of these truths are we making
Right.
and saying we're discovering them? Are they discoveries or are they just perceptions? Like perception keywords that change. Like as Gary was saying the last time I was on the call with him, he was just like, I'm really starting to think that everything they tell us about the human body is completely wrong. It's completely wrong. And we're all operating.
Yeah.
And you realize we save lives all the time in the hospital being completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
we put rockets into space, being completely wrong as well.
Yes,
and
totally.
I'm from the psychology space, and I also, like, everything about the mind that I was taught in school was essentially correct on some level, but the opposite of correct on how I operate now. Like, it works within this current broken system to label people all of these, mental illnesses. That works if we're running a society like that, but it does nothing to serve another version of society where we're all creators. Because if you're going to tell somebody they're abnormal, then they're going to be abnormal based on what is a well-known concept in psychology, which is called the self-fulfilling prophecy. And so you have concepts in regular science, conventional science, like the placebo effect and self-fulfilling prophecy, that should undermine the entire thing. Because if you have a placebo effect, why are we doing studies? Why don't we just use the placebo? Like, why don't we just tell people this is going to heal you if that works?
Because Rockefeller wanted to control the medical system. Like, this is all about control. This is not about truth. That's why you have multiple choice. The right answer is one of 5 we give you. The right answer is always one of 5 that we give you. Just check the one of the 5 that we gave you. Don't come up with your own 5. You're not smart enough for that in our education system that we are providing. You're not smart enough in the education system we're providing to be able to have 10 choices. We're going to narrow down to 5. It's all control. I think it's, and it's been control for about 100 years. You know what's interesting? It kind of started when the sun conjunct Sirius. So the United States sun, so we just had the 4th of July. The United States birthday is 4th of July. United States is a step 13 Cancer. Okay, step 13 Cancer, which basically means United States is a moody Cancer. Step 13 Cancers are moody. It's one of the moodiest cancers you can create. So we are a moody society, right? But the star Sirius, because of the precession of the equinox, the star Sirius moves 1 degree every 90 years. Boink, 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 1 degree every 90 years. So Sirius is actually the star that we celebrate Lionsgate with on August 8th. But back then in ancient Egypt, Sirius was in Leo. And so it was the Lionsgate based on Leo and the constellation Leo, and Sirius being the constellation Leo. So technically, Lionsgate is now 14 degrees Cancer. That's where the Lionsgate is when the sun crosses Sirius. Okay, once a year, the sun crosses the fixed star Sirius, and we take on the energy of the Sirian cultures. We feel that energy for that one day. It's just a 1 degree one day. You can feel, so when the sun aligns with a star, you're feeling all the consciousness of all those stars for that one day the sun crosses them. And so we're always connected to the entire Milky Way of all of our energy. But here's what I'm bringing it down to. The United States sun is 13 degrees Cancer. Sirius was 13 degrees Cancer also. It just moved to 14 in 2012. It had been for 90 years at 13.
Wow.
Basically, the 90 years that it was on the star Sirius is the 90 years America went to shit. I mean, that's when the Rockefellers came up. That's when we started polluting the water. That's when we went off the gold standard. That's when we had the World Bank. That's when we've done 2 world wars, with the United States sun conjunct Sirius. It was the darkest 90 years of the United States ever. We invented the nuclear bomb and dropped it on 2 cities. So, it was dark. And it makes me think, interesting. It's almost like we shared the karma of our Sirius brothers and sisters when they went dark, for that time. But now Sirius is up to 14, and so it's off of the United States sun as of 2012. I know I threw a lot of weird stuff at you.
Is there any insights on what that means from an energetic standpoint? Like what 14 compared to 13?
14, in fact, we had a new moon. So last Friday, the sun conjunct Sirius. And we by the way, call that day now Sirius Joy Day. We're going to steal it and call it Sirius Joy Day. So Sirius Joy Day will always be with the sun conjunct Sirius. We'll celebrate it every year. But there was a new moon on that day on Friday. So that means that this conjunction to Sirius at 14 was adopted by the entire planet, because if you encode a new moon with an energy, it encodes the planet with that energy. So every year when the sun crosses Sirius, we're like, oh, hey guys, yeah, I remember you. But this year we became them. Like this year we adopted something from Sirius. By the way, the new moon only happens on Sirius once every 19 years. So the last time we had a new moon on Sirius was when it was on 13 degrees in 2005. So I was thinking like in 2005 was a big year for me. I started off a whole new home, a whole new foundation of my life in 2005. I started Soul Garden, my own internet business. I left TV business. I was doing TV, working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Now I'm working 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So I'm working more now. I work for a slave driver. He's a bastard.
Yeah. Deal.
Well, it just seems like you don't have enough time, and there's so much that you want, and that's something I'm, so many years into it, I'm getting better at it, that I have all the time in the world. But when you're young, you feel like you don't. So you just sacrifice, but my point is that I think a new moon conjuncting Sirius is a big deal for Earth. I think every time that happens, every 19 years, Earth gets like lions gated for 19 years. And if you think about it, a 20-year cycle is kind of a thing, right? It's a thing. People work for a job for 20 years. People are married for 20 years. 20 has its own thing for whatever.
For 20 years.
2 decades. Yeah, 2 decades. For some reason, 2 decades, can be, put under parentheses. And I wonder if this is what's making the parenthesis the conjunction to Sirius. As far as what's really happening in our consciousness, that maybe we return back to our mother. Our father is different races, by the way. The father energy came from different alien species, but the mother energy that we have, divine mother, Princess, what's her name? Princess Diana kind of energy. I think of Princess Diana as as the mother, divine mother energy.
That's a playful.
In fact, her birthday's close. I'm gonna look at it, but it's close to Sirius. She's a Cancer. Her son's a Cancer. The one who's about to become the next king, because I think this king is not going to last very long, personally. He's on his way out.
I know. It's really weird.
Well, he's part of those reductionists.
Yeah. So you got to hold on with that mindset.
The first thing to do is reduce him. That's the thing. They reduce each other.
Yeah.
Like they're doing with Diddy. They'll reduce each other if they need to.
Yep. Chop them into pieces and take all the power away that they can.
Hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, it happens.
So
What
I
were you on
think
to just now? Yeah,
I
go
was
ahead.
going to say that the 20-year thing, like we've had a certain version of the internet and the how we connect with each other, and that's all like massively evolutionizing, like now as well. It's going to grow exponentially, and we've been waiting for it. And it seems like the level of connection that we've had is all going to just it's just going to grow. The computers are going to get faster. What we can do with the information is going to get better. I mean, we can't even really imagine what the world is going to be like even next year because of all of this with
Yeah, it's
AI.
interesting. Yeah, it's going into, well, for instance, I mean, I got A's and B's in school because I totally just asked my guides what the right answers were. And so, if you want to talk about AI, there is artificial intelligence, or there's AI in angelic intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people are going to choose one way or the other. Um, all my friends are connecting to their Atlantis past life memories. We're all psychically sharper than we were last year. We can all tell now. We're better in readings. Like, we see our superpowers increasing. Some of us are starting to see auras. Some of us are starting to see past life visions. So we're opening up. So yeah, the AI stuff is cool, but it's from the reductionists. In fact, it literally is a computer goes and reduces the entire internet to an artificial intelligence. The entire internet was
Yeah,
reduced,
right.
right? I think
And
it's
that's a
cool.
mirror of what's going on, let's say naturally, right?
Yes, I think you're right. I actually agree. In fact, for instance, text messages. So here's something. So text messages, right? That means that we can communicate with each other instantly, which is really cool when it came around. Like, I had a
Right.
pager. I had a pager. I'd have to like say I love you with fucking number codes to my wife, right?
143.
Was that it? Okay,
One
yeah.
four
Thank you. I don't
three.
remember. I don't remember anymore. I don't remember all the codes, but it was always like we were sending each other codes with numbers, because that's how small the tech was. But my point is, we get into this pattern of communicating instantly, and now people will see from that. I was just thinking of you 2 seconds ago.
Right.
I was just thinking of you a minute ago. And so what it's doing is it's highlighting our natural psychic telepathy. We already have telepathic text messages all the time. We just label it as our imagination having conversation with them. But I'll tell you right now, folks, if you go walking around the yard yelling at your wife or yelling at someone, they are getting that full conversation. You
Yeah, my
you can't.
wife knows everything that I'm thinking.
Yeah, but
Like,
I mean, yeah, totally. Wife is a bad example because she's so close to you. My point is, like, let's say you go around bitching about, grandma. My point is, like, and you're just like, I'm so glad she didn't hear that. She did. Her soul did hear it. And you don't realize it. And she doesn't know what it was. And when I see the phenomena, I study it with people watching stuff. When one person, I'll know both sides of the story quite often just by the nature of being a counselor, right? So I know both sides of the story. And this person will be like, "Rah," and this person will be like, I've been feeling bad. I don't know why, and it's like, I know why, because someone's hating you next door. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Secretly loathing. And it's like that stuff, you know, that's why I'm at a point because I'm so psychic. It's like when I've been married in relationships, I don't even think about chicks because I know they get the message. I know my wife will get the message.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I wasn't going to bring it up, but that's what I meant. Like, yeah, like and this was even before we spent 7, 8 years like going on and off again. And by the time I was ready to get married, I was already knowing that like you said, like I'm done thinking about other girls. Like it's not just a matter of like physical interactions, even like what's going on up here. It wasn't until I was ready to let that go that I was ready for marriage, because
Yeah.
I know that she's so connected to me, and that's not like she's not okay with that.
Yeah, but I think you've also bought into the reductionist thing a little bit in the sense that, well, the Catholic Church and everything has told us what marriage has to be and all this other stuff.
Right.
The truth of the matter is, almost all relationships other than your married one, like, so you marry one person, but the people you're thinking about are usually past life wives. They're people you have karma with. They're people you have baggage with. And your mind goes, oh, I find them attractive. And there's a lesson there. Most of the time, attraction is a lesson. Most of the time. And I'll tell you right now, you have extreme sexual attraction. There's a huge lesson there. It's how God gets us involved, right? You weren't thinking about other people really. You were processing your
Right.
karma.
I
Is my opinion. But
yeah,
the woman's story is different.
right.
But
So
it comes from the church and the reductionist
right.
side, I think.
And there need to be, trusting that the relationship is solid, and so their priorities are different, and I'm willing to sign on for that game even if it's not completely, like, it's limiting my awareness of how the whole thing operates, but I'm okay. I'm okay for her sake.
I think it's going to change for the whole earth. I really think that as humans, again, we're walking around in the dark. If I told you every girlfriend you had in your 20s was a past life wife, how does that change things? It changes everything tremendously. It's not that I hoard around, honey. It's that I've been hoarding around for lifetimes. You know what I mean? Like this isn't just this life.
Right.
You
I
know,
mean, yeah, all of
it,
our relationships, we're just repeating it over and over and over again.
well, I believe until 30 at least. So everything till 30, almost all past life. Anytime you have like high school sweethearts, that's a past life marriage. Anytime you have like cheerleader jock that are inseparable, past life marriage. Like I can't tell you how many people in high school are reliving their marriages with people that they're trying to have closure to, and they're having closure while they're a kid, so they don't have to remarry them.
Mm. Yeah, you're getting
So
them out of the way.
we get a lot of karma out of the way in the beginning, so that after 30, your Saturn return. Once Saturn returns, your karma, you have been introduced to all of your karma.
I before 30, I had four 3-year long relationships. So from 18 to 30 was four, basically,
Wow.
essentially like marriages, like you said. They were like full on relationships, and then I felt free from 30 on. And then I it was almost like I was free to
You
explore, and I did
were.
that until I was, okay and settled with that version of life, and now I'm back with one, and I'm happy with it
You're
now.
a Libra, right?
Yeah,
A lot of Libras have a lot of relationships in their 20s because Libras are relationship experts. And so they quite often have been really interested in human relationships for many lifetimes. And so they quite often have many like loose ends to close up when they get here.
amazing.
More than the average person.
So, guys, Christopher Witecki, at Christopher Witecki, or sj.serious.joy. I'm sure if you just scroll back down on the Human Garage feed, you'll see plenty of him. Um,
Yes. And SeriousJoy.com.
there you go.
It's
All
now
right.
free. Come on by and see what step number it is. Thanks, Raw. Always a fun conversation with you, bro.
Yeah, super
Hopefully
fun. Take care. Bye bye,
I'll see
everybody.
see you in Canada.
Yeah.
Bye.